All right, welcome to Reptile Fight Club. I'm Justin Julander. With me here is Rob Stone. And tonight our special guest returning. I think he's probably been on this podcast more than anybody else as a guest, and we're very happy to have him back, Ron St. Pierre. How's it going, Ron?
How's it going, guys? Yeah, it's been there's been quite a few on here, I think.
Yeah. You just have so much insight. We just got to keep having you back.
Yeah. Is that what it is?
Oh yeah.
I'm always available.
Well, plus you have so many great stories and experiences. So yeah, it just makes it a lot of fun to have you on. So that's yeah. Cool. Well, how are things? How you been?
Good. We're we're in the final stretch of the great Skinkapalooza that after 6 years of work, it's about to become a reality. So
nice. Yeah, I started seeing some ads. You guys putting up some animals for sale and things. That's some of the last year stuff. This year though, this is the big year that she managed to breed a shit ton, like something like 100 females or something, and and that's spread out amongst 5 or 6 species of pure stuff, and then somewhere between 9 and 11 mutations potentially. Oh wow!
So, and some of those will be double visual combos because she made double hets for different things last year,
right? And
hopefully most of that stuff took. She basically, we're kind of doing 2 things here. She runs them on the outdoor together year round kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But then just to make sure, she will bring them inside briefly and then manually breed them in the fucking living room.
Oh man. to increase the workload.
Yeah. Just to make them, she's like, dude, she's way more hardcore about this shit than I ever was. So,
yeah.
But
she got David Kirshner vibes of his lace monitors on the rug in his living room.
Right.
Yeah.
So for like 2 weeks there during breeding season, you couldn't even walk in my living room. There were tubs all over the floor, and she's sitting over him on the floor, looking at him. I got a lock.
Yeah. Well, that's the nice thing about blue tongues is they go right to work. You throw them together, kind of like knobtail geckos or something.
Yeah, for sure.
Ready to go.
But yeah, this is going to be our big year, and for that, so it took 6 years to get here, right. And then obviously a lot of craziness. But
yeah, on that topic where you say they're housed together, but then is it just like a bunch of females housed together and males, or no. What are you're just housing them as groups? But then
most of them are in pairs, some of them are in trios, and they're kept together year round. Have you ever been here? No, Rob has. But
Rob has, yeah. I missed out on that one.
So almost everything, all the enclosures here are large to some degree. The smaller stuff or the smaller enclosures she keeps pairs in, and those are still pretty big compared to what you could really realistically get away with indoors, right? Because it's all outdoors. Mm-hmm. And then the groups are in like those huge monitor enclosures that I had, the ground-based ones that I had built. So
you have kind of a false floor, right? That they can go underneath and
almost everything now, dude. I've had to do so much hardening of these systems over the last couple of years because of how fucking batshit crazy the weather's been.
Oh man, yeah, not great.
So the stuff here now is, I've done things here that I've never done previously, and it's been working really good, but those things, they can definitely, they have the ability to get away from pretty serious weather, and be safely, tucked away.
Right.
So,
the cage design has to support that as well. So so have you made many modifications or what's kind of helped for that?
Well, no, I mean, the interior, the stuff you put in the cage has changed, but a box is a fucking box, man.
Right.
However whatever you prefer as far as aesthetically, I guess, with that, but it's what we do internally. Previously I would just normally, prior to about 6 or 8 years ago, I would just have like pipes on the ground that were just slightly buried for them to hide in, various lizards. This is my initial tegu system. And then I've slightly modified it over the last, for whatever I was doing. And now then I heavily modified it when she decided she really wanted to go after the skink thing. But it it's basically the same system. But, with tegus and during the times that I was doing it, the weather was pretty mild. But the last couple of years, especially the last few years, I've just dealt with just extremes on both ends, like super fucking hot and then fucking cold as shit.
Relatively speaking, right? I mean,
okay, yeah, okay.
We're in Utah and Colorado,
for Central Florida, and keeping tropical reptiles outside,
right?
Plus the hurricane problem. I mean, even when they don't directly hit you, they'll dump tons of water on you, which has its own set of issues.
Yeah.
So we kind of have contingencies now for everything. But 4 weeks ago, after having weeks and weeks of like 80 degrees every day, 82 degrees, it dropped down to below 25 for 13 hours, which I have never, ever experienced.
That's bizarre.
I've never seen below freeze. So normally in Florida, in Central Florida on south, when it gets really cold, I have gone through some 20s before, but it usually only gets in the 20s right before dawn. And then it hits that temperature, and then the sun comes up, and obviously the temperature goes back the other direction. But this was sub 32 for, I think, 13 or 16 hours. And I was looking at that forecast, and I was waiting and waiting and waiting and moving back and forth. And then finally at the last minute, 2 days before, I was like, nope, we're going to pull everything because I just don't know that they can survive that.
Right.
So we went through and pulled everything that was outdoors. And let me tell you something, man, that took 2 solid days of about 12 hours a day for the two of us to get it all and get it inside.
Oh man.
Classic
question, man. Everything was there that you expected and nothing else? No extras? No missing, no extra?
No missing, no extra. I mean, if it was me running this place, I'd never know what was going on, but Heather rules us with an iron fist. So she knows what everything is, where it's at, what it does,
right? How
many toes it has. Like, she's super hard. Like I said, she's super hardcore and very much into this.
Yeah.
So, so she knew exactly what to pull. Like there was no guessing. She'd like, okay, there's 3 in here. It's 2 of this and whatever. Yeah. But it was, and this was very hardened system. I mean, in the beginning part of the year, I expected it to be really cold. The forecasts were looking like we were going to have some extreme events. So we did stuff we never did before, which was we had a ton of hay delivered, and then we stacked up deep layers of hay in every enclosure and removed all the shade areas so that the top of the hay got blasted with sun, so that underneath, and then we don't use any electricity for anything, but we do use this 6 mil clear plastic, and that's how we raise and lower temperatures. Yeah. So, and I imagine honestly that everything would have been fine. That I probably could have left it all out, but after 40 years and never, and I was looking at that going, I just can't guarantee that we're going to come out the other side of this without some heavy losses. So we pulled it because it's a 6 1/2 dozen of the other, because you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't here. Because if you pull the shit, you're going to have to keep it in suboptimal temperatures for the day or two they're inside anyway.
Right.
They're not going to be exposed to extremes, but they might spend, they were in here for 3 days in like the mid 70s, but with no heat or anything or no lights, because obviously, they were not geared for that. So that has some modest risk to it. Not as much as potentially, freezing to death. So that's why we erred on the side of caution there. But it is a risk to pull the stuff and disrupt it nonetheless.
Right.
Not to mention it's it's just stressful for them. It's stressful for us. So, But yeah, I couldn't do it, man. I chickened out. It's the first time. the first. Normally, man, I will sleep the sleep of the dead, man. I trust in what I have done, and always comes through unscathed.
Yeah.
But this one, I would not have been able to sleep, and
right.
So yeah,
worth the effort then. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess for the listener too, we're not asking about specific projects because Heather's right now on a podcast. I'm sure she's talking all about all the different mutations and things you're working with. So we'll let you listen to her talk about those kind of things, and we'll ask around about the cage designs and things. But
not necessarily our jam and interest anyway. Beyond hearing, do you think the occipitalis are going to do anything? Right?
They have, they are. She's gravid again. So last year she went. She got gravid. She had 5 stillborn babies, which sucked.
Yeah.
And I talked to a few people. I talked to John Felicity about it. He's been successful breeding them, and he was under the impression that because he had the same issues previously. And then he started lowering the temperatures when they get closer to having babies. So he was like, "Yeah, I think they're getting too hot near the end." And so I took that into consideration, and I moved their entire enclosure into an area where they have way more choice this time. I had them in the hottest part of the yard because I assumed, based on where they were from, that they're going to want, almost hell on earth, like a lot of that Australian shit, and so this time they have the choice. They can choose hell on earth if they want, or they can be tucked up underneath a shade.
Yeah.
So
they come from such a. I mean, I've been in their range several times, and unfortunately have never seen a live one. My last trip to South Australia, a couple trips ago, we flipped a piece of tin, and there was an eastern and a western and a shingleback. Unfortunately, the western was dead. It was just like a carcass. I don't know how it got there or why it was dead, but yeah, the eastern and the shingleback, like all in the same little area, and the shingleback was incredibly gorgeous. Like it was this gold dust looking it was crazy looking, just probably one of the nicest ones we saw on the trip. But we saw about 40 shinglebacks. They were everywhere. But I don't know what my luck is, with Centralians and Westerns. I always find them just after they've been hit by a car or, dead under a piece of tin for some reason. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, that fucking shingleback probably crawled into there, murdered the Western. It's like, this is my spot now.
But it was like, it got really cold. Like we were shivering in the night, and we were even further north than where we saw those. Those were down kind of towards the bottom of, towards, what's this? Is it Adelaide down there? Yeah. In South Australia. And, the nights were cool. They were pretty chilly. So, we're in
the daytime is really hot, right?
It was, I mean, it was still fairly chilly during the day.
We had time of year, right?
For that time of year,
like springtime, yeah. But yeah, I'm sure it gets just blasted hot, So we didn't see it. I mean, we saw a lot of lizards. It was a great lizard trip. We saw like 2 snakes on that trip, which was kind of lame. But just and some of the days were pretty warm, but for the most part, it was maybe just a little too early in the year for high reptile activity, but. Great trip regardless.
Yeah. That's something we got to do at some point. Hopefully, now that we've made a lot of sacrifices to get this. I mean, to develop these projects from scratch is very expensive and takes a long time.
Yeah.
So we've been, working off of on a razor for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
But now we should actually start getting some rewards from that. So hopefully maybe in a year or 2, we can actually take that trip and go for a week.
Nice. Yeah.
I'd like to see that. She's always wanted to do that. So it's definitely a plan. Maybe we'll tether onto one of your excursions because I'm not going to go by myself. I don't want to go without people that already know the shit. And
Yeah.
You know,
that'd be a blast. That'd be really fun.
Yeah. I wish I could have made it the last time you guys invited us, but it just wasn't in the cards.
Right. Yeah.
But
I'm itching to get back over there again too. I think the next trip's up to the Kimberley. Need to go find some rough scale pythons and see.
Yeah, that'd be badass.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be a bit more of a high adventure, like expensive trip too, because getting out there is just very difficult without a 4-wheel drive or, so
yeah,
it should be fun. And Jordan Parrott was just on NPR talking about, his few of his trips, and he's a great storyteller. So I'd recommend everybody listen to that. It was fantastic. He tells some really good stories about some of the trips over there. Nice stuff. But,
I'll have to check that out tomorrow.
Yeah. So with the, the weather changes and things like that, how much do you think that, I mean, obviously in the wild, they're experiencing kind of these dramatic shifts from time to time. Do you think like it's kind of smashing out a whole season's worth of reproduction, or do you think they're pretty tolerant? They're going to,
I've never had a year. And now that I probably shouldn't say this because I'm going to jinx myself.
Right.
But I have never had a year where I had any kind of, terrible season that was attributable to anything like any weather or anything like that. Mm-hmm. I mean, they can't, despite what what Facebook might lead you to believe, these animals are not these, delicate flowers that, have to have these perfect temperatures. It's just fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, every place where you find this stuff, most of the places really fucking harsh, man. It's not climate controlled. It's, it has its seasons. Even the equator has seasons to some degree, I mean, there's no place on earth where it's static and stuff like that. So I think as long as you're within the range, somewhere within like a 20-degree north or south range of, they do fine. And I've never had anytime I've ever had like low production, which has only happened to me 2 times that I can remember while we're talking. That was all attributed to stupid shit I did. It was stuff that I either changed some, formula, or I was off really focused on something else and I wasn't putting 100% in, to the animals and stuff at the time, if I was distracted by something. But it was always places where I slacked off those 2 times for sure.
Right.
And I mean, I'm bad about slacking off at a time. But there ain't no slacking off with Heather, man. I'm telling you, dude, I look at her and I get exhausted just watching her. I'm like,
right.
Just chill. This is not everything's got to be perfect all the time. So
I hear you though. Like I was thinking, man, why can I not? I got my Agurnia, the Depressa and to breed, once, and then like nothing after that for a couple years. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And then I talked to a few, I talked to Art Avilas, however you pronounce his last name, and really good advice, but he's like, yeah, it sounds like you're doing everything fine. Just check your temps. And I hit the batteries in my temp gun had run out and I hadn't replaced them. And I just assumed, everything's, autopilot running smoothly. I go to temp the cage and like the coldest spot in the cage was like 95 degrees. And I'm like, I'm cooking them, like the heat hot spot's like 150. And I'm like, that's just too high. I just got complacent, got lazy, and just assumed everything was okay. And so, switching out the wattage and changing up the, that. And now we're back to the right temps. I have a video camera focused on them so I can watch them at work and stuff. And I turned it on and lo and behold, they're up there mating and, things are back to hopefully productive state. So yeah, I think, and in the wild too, like if it's too hot, they're going to estivate. They're just going to be inactive and hide out, you're not going to see them. So it fit with my mistake, that all went together.
Well, it's the downside to the stability of being inside.
Right.
There's
that's
far
what
less
I was
choice and option.
That's what I was just going to say.
Right.
Is that there's the Achilles heel of indoor keeping.
Right.
Is that it's 100% dependent on you.
Yeah. you do have to be like control freak.
Right. If you're off, and see, I've always been, I dislike control method to a degree. I kind of like to set things up and then stand back, and hopefully I did. My method is basically, set them up, give them all the options that you think they need, and then stand back and let it happen, and don't interfere unless you absolutely have to.
Right.
So that's always been my method. Heather she was more of a control method when we met, but now she's adopted a lot of my stuff, and then but still maintains. So she's kind of doing a hybrid between the two.
Right.
She has a lot of my, they're in my systems there. And then I've modified them based on stuff that she wanted modified. She was like, oh, I think it would be better if we do this. And in a lot of cases, it actually made things even better. It hardened them more than I would have done on my own, I think.
Yeah.
So they actually have even more choices. But then, like I said, to make damn sure that this shit gets bred, she'll bust out a 6-week period, like in the middle of breeding season, where I'm going to see a lock before I put them, because she wants to know.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's why, we've done really well with them. A lot of people were apparently 10 years, those albinos bounced around. Nobody was able to produce them.
Right.
And then we got them going, and, and now we have all this other morphs. We got hypermel stuff on the ground. So we'll have black ones soon and combos. Nice. Some of those are comboed up with other shit.
Yeah.
Already. So, I don't know, but
what do you think the secret sauce was? What was the reason you guys succeeded where others failed?
Honestly, I think people threw them in CB70s and thought they could feed them shitty cat food, cheap, dry cat food. And they thought that was enough.
Yeah.
And that's, you have to, no, that doesn't cut it. So we just, we treat them like lizard, really the thing I like about blue tongues is that they're sort of in between a lizard and a snake. They have a lot of snake-like things about them. They don't have to eat that often. They don't really need, I don't think they need UV at all because they're basically crepuscular. I mean, they do bask, but I think they only bask early in the morning. And I think they're only really doing that just to get their temperature up. And then
right.
You don't see them out at all when it's really hot. So I personally feel like they don't. Plus, most of that really shiny stuff doesn't really seem to have like a major UV requirement. Right. But it may have played a part, in people not being successful too. I mean, maybe it's more important than we think. Heather does seem to think that it's more important than I think it is. And it's possible she would be a better gauge of that than I would, because like I said, she's with them all the time, and that's really her focus. Yeah.
But that understanding of like they need to bask, or they need to heat up from that heat source above them, rather than a rack system with a belly heat or something might be, because I've seen the same thing where I've had to keep some babies in rack systems, and it's not as good as when I keep them in a cage, with a basking lamp and that kind of thing. Yeah.
I mean, I just ended up trading out for 10 or 11 CB70 vision racks, and that's for overspill for babies. Yeah, because I'm expecting Skinkapalooza here in a couple months, and I was trying to figure out how the hell am I going to build out. Building outdoor enclosures on your own, sucks, especially at the scale that might potentially be needed. So I found this guy that was selling all these. They were pretty cheap, so I was like, all right, well, that's a good solution for temporary housing for babies. Hang on one second. Will you guys cut it out? Sorry, Yorkies are a pain in the ass. But so it where was I talking about before? I was so rudely interrupted by Sprite. So anyway, damn dude, I totally lost my train of thought. What were we talking about?
Yeah, I'll get. I mean, you were you had hopped into the Skinkapalooza Baby Rat, the CB.
Oh yeah. So I mean, we do use some racks, and we have that it's, I think it's like 2,000 square feet, that big building that I have in the back. Has like 4 big bay doors and a couple of extra rooms. Mm-hmm. So we do have that, and so in that right now is completely full of enclosures. And most of it is indoor outdoor. So that's a hybrid between the two.
Yeah.
And system that I built for her last year to handle overspill. Mm-hmm. And it ended up being flooded overspill. So, because she's like, oh, I got to keep this and I got to keep this and I got to keep this. And the next thing I knew, everything that I'd set up to be temporary became permanent. So we've had to modify that, but that actually has been working pretty good.
Have you ever tried raising up babies in a group
No, they're all raised in groups.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't have any issues with tails and feet and
not feet. Very rarely with tails, but honestly, man, we found the secret sauce for them is to put them on a legitimately, full enclosure level of hay.
Okay.
So like a couple inches of hay deep.
Yeah.
They will burrow. They don't do that. You know how one of the problems that you find with skinks in captivity a lot,
right,
is they will the back thing, the back bend, that gets rid of the back bend.
Yeah.
Because they don't do it anymore, because they're doing that back bend because they're not comfortable with what you have set up, really. That's really what it is. Right. So it's kind of this nervous tick.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that you see in bearded dragons. Like bearded dragons, most people, I don't know if it's still this way, but it used to be that most people, theirs were all nipped up. Ours don't nip. And that's because a long time ago, I figured out, they're friggin' arboreal. We force them on the ground, with a basking rock and some dirt.
Right.
And we put them in a group, and we think but what's happening is they tend to start stacking up on each other. And when they do that, because they're trying to get high, up off the ground, and then they start getting nervous because they're getting stressed out, and then they start nipping at each other. And then all of a sudden, once one, draws first blood, then all the rest of them are like, oh, and then you can have this situation where they chew each other's feet and tails off.
Right.
Let me tell you something, man. You put a pile of small sticks, like I make a ball out of little oak branches, really thin ones. There's probably like 100 to 200 individual little sticks in each enclosure in a big ball. It completely goes away. And they spend all their time sitting in there. It's because each one can get their own little stick, and then they can stare at their little, their little cage mates, and nobody gives a fuck because nobody's sitting on each other, nobody's sitting on their head.
Right.
And it all stops. Like 100% of it stopped. And
I wonder if I came to the wrong conclusion then, because when I bred bearded dragons back in the late 90s, I set them up like that. I had like a branch with a bunch of sticks, and they could all kind of have their own little stick to bask on. But I figured it, was like they would feed, and when they ate all the crickets, they were still looking for that movement. So I just spray them down with water, and then they'd go bask. And so I figured, I'm shutting down their, feed response. So then they go bask to warm up again. But maybe it was because they had that individual basking areas that they didn't.
I mean, that was the general thought. Everybody thought you had to keep feeding them, and everybody thought, you got to feed them 5 times a day, or whatever it was. And if you did that, they didn't nip. And you know why? Because they were constantly trying to burn off the food. But it's the minute you didn't do that, they'll turn on each other.
Yeah.
So you have to ask yourself. So I started to question whether or not that was it. Then I realized those things really are semi-arboreal. I mean, they're more arboreal than probably even semi-arboreal. They're just not super high treetop, but they like to be 3, 5, 6 feet off the ground, 8 feet off the ground if they can get away with it. Mm-hmm. And so I think that. So I started thinking about it, and then I started playing with it. And once I did that, then it actually allowed me to maintain enormous numbers of bearded dragons, and healthy, by the way, but only feeding them once a day like you would normally.
Right.
Like there's no way that a bearded dragon needs to eat 4 times a day.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, where the hell is that? It's just stupid.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was a game changer. And they're not stressed out once they have that ability. Mm-hmm. So they hold their weight much better, and everything about them is better. And that's because it's basically a nerve. I'm convinced that it's just a nervous tick caused by extreme stress from an animal that you're denying, what it wants, what millions of years of evolution have told it that it wants.
Right.
You're forcing it on the ground where all the shit that eats them can be. And then they're in terror, even though they're in a safe, they don't know that there's not a carpet python around the next corner or.
Yeah, we were driving in South Australia, Jordan and I, and we went, and we had walkie-talkies, and the Australians were behind us, Sean Scott and Steve Crawford, and they're like, "Hey, did you guys want to see that bearded dragon?" And we're like, "What bearded dragon?" We're, looking all over. We come back, and it's 15 feet up a tree. We drove under it, like it was up, just sprawled out on these thinner branches on the edge of the tree, and it seems like most of the ones I've seen have been in that situation where they're up, either 4 to 15 feet off the ground, in a tree, dead trees usually, or a shrub, and they'll do that chameleon thing where they kind of go on the other side of the branch to not be seen, Yep. But if you get too close and they figure they've been seen, then they'll drop and hit a burrow or something, or run. Yeah. So they kind of know their escape routes and where they can hide out. They'll go under a rock or something, but. Yeah. So you're definitely onto something there.
Well, and you highlight, right, the totally unnatural. You go, from going into a pet store 30, 40 years ago where there's the stack of 5 hatchlings on top of one another. And it's like people might find that compelling, but that's obviously not happening in nature.
But it's so cute to see them all stacked up. They need their hammock and
and their little bed and shit. I don't know, man. But I actually, since we have dramatically lowered the number of bearded dragons that we produce now. We're basically only producing less than 1,000, and those are for those are like high end ones for the pet trade directly. Right. Mm-hmm. So we were able to lower the numbers down to about 25 adults. And I had all those giant monitor enclosures behind the house, those 4x8x8s. They're 8 feet tall.
Yeah.
So I started changing them over so she could put some in there. And she's already set up 3 or 4 of them with dragons in them. Uh-huh. And they're almost always, man, on the very highest shelf, on the top of the big branches. She's been taking pictures of it, and they're way up there. And people would say things like, "Oh my God, if they fall, they're going to break their neck." All right. I once chased a green iguana. I was 50 feet up in a friggin' tree on a canal bank. Uh-huh. And that iguana, right when I was about to grab it, he launched out of the tree like a friggin' bullet straight down, smashed into the friggin' ground, and then ran away.
Right.
And went under the water, and I caught him an hour later, and that thing was just fine.
So, no broken bones, no broken backs.
No, and it was legitimately, dude, it was 50 feet because this tree was really tall. I was way up in it, and I was level with it was alongside of a big bridge in Miami near the airport. Uh-huh. I was level with the cars driving over the bridge. And I was looking at them. People were looking at us, and they were like, "What the hell is that guy doing?" And it was the biggest iguana I'd ever seen, though. So I was determined to at the time to catch that thing.
Right.
But
and so many lizards use that as their escape route. And I've seen bearded dragons do it too. We had one sitting in a tree, and I'm thinking, "Oh, that's a cool photo op," and I get closer and closer. It just dives and hits the ground and, scrambles into the brush or whatever where you can't get to it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not the same thing as if like my fat ass jumped out of a 50-foot tree and break everything. And
right.
Yeah. No,
maybe only works with Gila monsters. That's about it. So.
Oh yeah.
Even dexterity in the rock pile. So
right.
As we've seen. So.
Yep. So what else you guys want to know?
Yeah, well, you would hit on, right? So that most stuff is maintaining groups, but then you're doing extra pairing or, kind of monitored pairing of those same groups in the house so you can see what's going on. I just wanted to hit on that idea. I know, Justin, previously you've talked about, kind of the often condition with the pythons that you maintain in pairs is that you might be seeing sort of signals within the female as she's building follicles and getting ready to lay eggs, but it's rare that you would observe copulation. Within the last week, I'd seen, I guess, 4 pairs of rhinos kind of caught two occasions, two each on 2 occasions. And it was just like, well, this occurred over probably a half hour, 45 minutes. And if I hadn't walked down in this window, I probably wouldn't see it all year. I don't even know how many times they're doing it within a season, stuff like that. So I was just curious, Ron, whether that's something that you guys are seeing, meaning do you often see sort of copulation, breeding behavior generally in the stuff that's maintaining groups, or is it more so you just sort of see the positive signs and then because you're bringing them in for the controlled, visitation that you can have that sense of security with it?
Most of the time we do not see copulation out in their enclosures. Like it's pretty rare. Every once in a while if I'm walking by, maybe I'll catch a glimpse of something. And I think she sees it more than I do, but again, she spends an extraordinary amount of time outside, whereas I'm not really in any one place for long enough. Like she's usually out there for hours, messing around with the stuff. And, so she'll run into it a little more, but even in that case, it's pretty rare. Most of the time we just find babies or, you find eggs or whatever. I mean, once they take, then after it's taken, then we know because based on behavior, like the skinks, the females bask longer during hotter parts of the day. So when we see that, we know, yep, that's gravid, and we need to keep an eye on that. So, and then other species that I worked on, all the snakes and stuff, I can't even remember ever seeing. I mean, I remember seeing boas copulate once in a while. I'd walk at night. I'd go in there and turn on the light in the room, and I'd see, they'd be locked up. But yeah, it's pretty rare. I mean, just because you don't see them breed doesn't mean they're not, not doing what they're supposed to. So, yeah, it's, and it also, I guess, depends, how often you're actually, in your rooms. And most people that keep snakes, I think they're probably not in there a lot because snakes don't require all that extra. You feed them once a week, you make sure they have water, every couple of days or whatever. But that's one of the reasons why I'm personally going back to doing snakes. I'm totally done with the lizard thing, and I've been picking up boas and pythons. I'm building an old school python and boa collection like I had in the 90s.
Cool.
So, yeah, not a ton of anything because right now, because now where the skinks will now pair bills. So I don't really have to do anything commercial anymore. That's our commercial thing. It'll probably be that way for perpetuity until, until we're essentially done.
So what python projects are you getting? I'm curious.
The first thing I wanted was some bloods and short tails and stuff. So I started picking up some of that stuff.
Right.
I'm working on getting a pied and then some locale stuff. I picked up some locale stuff from McNamara. The top of my list, things that I fully intend to acquire in the next year are, a couple, maybe a pair or two of diamond pythons, Sanzinia, Cuban boas. I like the Epicrides, but I used to have, Haitians and Jamaicans and all those. That was always a thing. And so I'm going to try to get as many of those as as I can get again, different ones, but I'm going to probably cap it off at somewhere between 3 and 5 pairs of each thing. And that's not really more focused. I'm more interested in locales and pure stuff. And the only morph stuff that I want to do are the bloods.
Cool.
I like the blood morphs and stuff, but yeah, I mean, it works well with what we do, especially, I was getting a little tired of dragging all these insectivorous lizards that I was working on to these shows. they really do suck to take to shows. I mean, you start out on Friday, your nulls look great. But by Sunday, they look like shit, and it's really hard to keep them up. And then you bring them back home Monday and you're like, oh my God, you poor bastards. And you get them back out and they're fine and they bounce back right away. But I was just kind of tired of that. I want stuff that, is easier to move around, and doesn't require a lot of work, because when you have as many skinks as we have, and I think it's somewhere around 350 adults, there's always some shit that has to be done, like the cages has a problem, something. So I need to be free. My time really needs to be, free to be able to do, deal with anything like that. And lizard projects are inherently, time consuming.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't want any kind of scale. So that pretty much, I started to phase it out. I did set up this, I'm in the process of setting up this outdoor tokay ranching sort of thing where, it's a bunch of adult tokays in a big walk-in enclosure filled with sheets of plywood, that they can hide between and just see if I can just manufacture babies in there. Without actually having to do anything. Just we're going to a show. Let's go grab some baby
harvest the babies. Yeah. Right.
So they seem to be a good candidate for that. And I bred them in the past. I actually was going to do them. I had all these tanks, and I was going to do them in the tanks. I was looking for an excuse to keep those tanks, but then I was like, I did it for like a month, and I was like, this sucks. I just want to put them outside and have this big walk-in, and so I ended up selling the tanks, and I was like, I'm just going to build them this big walk-in thing. Tokays were one of the first reptiles I ever had. I like them. They're little, cantankerous bulldogs. And, God, my dogs are nuts tonight. Will you guys? A Yorkie and a bulldog, man. I swear to God.
Right.
I did a podcast last night and they didn't shut the fuck up the whole damn time. But
it's darn warm-blooded animals.
Yeah, I love those too, but my God, they have to be the center of attention all the time.
Right.
But yeah, so I've been kind of fucking around with that. But yeah, that's another reason why I bought all these racks initially, so I can raise baby boas and pythons pretty easily.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just going to go back to doing all the shit that because when I started this, I was a boa and python guy. I was not a lizard guy.
Right.
I mean, I always liked monitors and tegus and stuff, but primarily I was boas and pythons, and I had I had a room full. And even when I was doing the tegus, I had a 2-car garage that was completely full. That's when I was doing like blood boas and motleys and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I got rid of it because, there was a lot of competition. I always like to look for holes in the market. I don't like having to, when it was just me, I hated the selling aspect.
Yeah.
So the whole commercial aspect of this just turns me off. So, and I'm not good at it, and I know that. So
I hear you.
So I look for holes because that's easy to sell. It's easy to find. It's easy to move the stuff. You don't have to sell it. You just have to make it. And at the time, everybody was doing all these different snakes. This was before really the ball python boom.
Right.
And I'm looking at all these wide open markets that nobody's really mining with all these lizards. And, and there were a lot of women starting to really come into the hobby. It was starting to change. And a lot of them were very interested in lizards. They seemed to be. So they were kind of lifting that the lizard interest market was booming. And I was like, oh, well, that's cool. I'll do this because, the first pet reptile I ever had was this big lizard because it was a night and all because my mom was dead set on me never having a snake, which I violated the hell out of that a year later when I came home with a reticulated python I bought for $44 from Something's Fishy.
That's a fitting title there.
That's actually a funny story, dude. They told me that if I caught stuff, I could keep it. So I saved my lunch money for like a month. And then I was also mowing lawns, and then I got on my bike and I went to Something's Fishy. I had put a down payment on this retic, and I paid it off, and I came home and I took it out of the bag and I threw it in the front yard, and then I pretended to catch it. I started yelling, "There's a snake! There's a snake!" And my mom came out, and I'm like, "Oh my God, look at this!" I pretended to catch this reticulated python, and then they were on a catch-22. Yeah. Told me if I caught it, I could keep it. I just caught it. So yeah, and I absolutely loved that thing. I mean, I would have retics today because I could give them a huge outdoor enclosure and friggin' badass. Yeah. But first of all, they're banned in Florida, so I definitely won't have many more. But not to mention, I wouldn't want to breed them at this point. There's, I know they have super dwarfs and shit like that, but if I was going to keep a retic, I want the legit monster,
yeah,
big orange-eyed,
right. Just the ethics of selling those.
Yeah,
it's
like all the That's why I kind of moved away from the big monitors too. I was just like, this is going to end up being a problem down the road because it just it just gives them some. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to see any of that stuff banned. I don't think banning anything is the issue.
Yeah,
it doesn't solve anything because the people that you don't want to have them, they still get them.
Right.
Like the people that are responsible are still going to get them.
Right.
I guarantee you that even though the retics are banned in the state, there's all kinds of friggin' assholes that should not have them that do sketchy shit that have them.
Yeah.
Right. But all the people that would be responsible can't have them. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's just fucking stupid. However, I do think you need to be like careful if you're selling that stuff, how much you produce, who you sell it to, and all that.
Right.
But then at that point you're like, well, how much of that really is their responsibility, and how could you possibly police that anyway? Because people can just lie to you about whatever.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. So because there's all those things that kind of, I just avoid stuff like that now.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. So. Are you planning on keeping any of these python or boas outside?
So, yeah. The diamonds, the Sanzinia, diamond Sanzinia, Centralians, those are anything from Australia.
Yeah.
I will absolutely keep those outdoors. I know how to do. It won't be
That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, and I did have Mexican indigos out for a while, and they bred, and then I sold them to Jason Hood, and 2 weeks later they had babies, and I was like, damn it.
Right.
Dude, I had them in a 16-foot outdoor enclosure that I had backfilled a portion of it with a 4x4 foot area with 36 inches of sand. And I had buried a 2x2 foot piece of plywood about halfway underneath that. And then I dug that out and built it and dug a chamber there.
Yeah.
And man, those snakes, they were always in that, and they would come out and they'd cruise it all day long in the blazing heat. These indigos would be out there in the sun, cruising up and down. It was super friggin' cool, man. I really enjoyed that. But I shouldn't have gotten rid of those at the time, but we were making cuts on stuff because we were getting overloaded.
Right.
That's the problem not having employees, is that we have to be very careful as to what we expand into.
Yeah.
And we'll go through the summer going to shows and stuff and be like, oh, that's cool, I gotta have that. And, oh, that's cool, I want that. Then the next thing you know, you got like a pair of this and a pair of that shit all over the place, and you're like, oh man, it's starting to.
It's so much easier in concept, right?
Right. Absolutely.
There weren't so many cool reptiles.
Right.
It would be a lot easier.
And that was why after the Emerald Tree Boa fiasco, I decided there was two things I was going to do. One, I'm not doing anything else commercially. We have the commercial thing that's the skinks.
Yeah.
And anything that I do, I'm just going to do the shit that I personally really have never been able to, not pay attention to.
Yeah.
And that I haven't bought over the last few years, mostly because I've always been, tied up on some bullshit I mean, dude, I had 2,000 square feet of giant fucking anoles. And I look back at that and go, what the hell was I thinking? When I look at what I actually made off of that, it really wasn't worth what that cost to. I mean, that was an expensive development on all that. And then I don't think I even broke even on that when I finally sold it off. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was a loss. Mm-hmm. If I made money, it wasn't much.
Right.
So, and that was 10, 11 years but I was trying to make something popular in the hobby that is probably just never going to be, they're good. It's good for like hobbyists to have pairs of those, to have, 20 babies here and there.
Yeah.
But it was not commercially viable.
Commercially viable project. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, that's I guess, those kind of things, it's like leave it to the small hobbyist, like you're saying.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, yeah, a pair here and there. And
yeah.
And
that's what I'm going to do with every time so all these Tinleys and shit I do, I end up always with McNamara at some point. So I'm usually sitting in front of his table scaring off potential customers. And he and I spend a lot of time talking there and on the phone and shit about, what to get, direction and stuff like that.
He's a good dude. I like Mac.
Yeah.
Dennis. Yeah.
And he goes there with a nice spread of stuff, and he always does well.
Right.
And he's not burdening himself with, he doesn't do this stupid shit that I do. He's smarter than I am. So I've been looking at that and I was like, I could be doing this. Why do I feel the need to have 50 of every fucking thing?
Diversity is a nice thing to have at a table at a show.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because it can save your ass if it's if some whatever it is you have is not selling at that point. So
right.
Yeah. So I was like, it's time to. I'm getting the feeling that old school, the way we used to all look at this shit 30 years ago is kind of coming back. I mean, I'm seeing it more at the shows. I'm definitely hearing it from all the different people that I talk to. Like, people are diversifying out again. And then there's the historically cool shit that everybody kind of likes, I mean, if you're into boas and pythons, pretty much everybody likes diamonds. Everybody likes Sansinia. Everybody likes, carpets and all that shit. So, but I also like the niche stuff. Like, I like Epicrates boas. They're most of them are a pain in the ass because they're lizard eaters when they're small, but it's not like I have any shortage of lizards. And and then and Cuban boas.
Plenty of them, man. They at least amongst the subflavus and the inornatus, right?
You have those?
Yeah. I'll send you pictures of that. Well, actually, that was another topic. So a variety of things I want to hit on too is, but yeah, one question or a thing that popped in my mind, right? I was telling you about the rhinos and saying, okay, well, keeping them in pairs and not noticing copulation. I don't keep those together, but generally speaking, as soon as I toss either the Jamaicans or Puerto Ricans together, the males just go right to it, and you see them locked up within the first 10 hours, 60 minutes to 10 hours. And that was the case this year. And to me, they've been consistently, both species have been consistently biannual breeders, right? The females will go like clockwork every other year. And then last year, the female Jamaican missed her first, every other year. And I came to think that basically she had just holed herself up in a cork round and that he couldn't sort of
get to her,
exert his will. Yeah. And I was wondering if in your context that you guys noticed that at all, and maybe that's part of bringing them inside, is even kind of breaking out that situation. When you were talking about keeping the beardies in those big monitor cages, that was kind of, I was like, oh, I wonder if you see any of that where instead of being in a small box, certainly it's the leopard gecko thing, right? Well, they don't have any problem with it because they're keeping them on paper in small tubs, and you toss in that male and, it is what it is, right? That if that's an issue that you see, because then this year, guess what? I took out the cork rounds and then no problem. He was on it, no worries.
Yeah. I mean, I never actually thought about that. That's actually kind of an interesting thing, because that actually may explain some of the issues that you see on occasion. I never really considered that at all, actually. So now this is going to bother me now for a while. I'm going to be thinking about that. No, I've never personally seen it, but again, never really paid attention to that. Things like the bearded dragons, we don't really care about that, mostly because one, they have an enormous window. You know, they have a 6-month breeding window. Two, they only got to be hit one time to produce several clutches. So, and those males are always, man. And not to mention a bearded dragon, it has to come out and get sunlight every day. So you're going to be out in the open. If the male wants you, he's going to get you. But a boa, you're right. They can hole up in there for weeks. Mm-hmm. Sometimes some of those things won't even move. It depends on the species, but I mean, you know, they don't have to go anywhere. And if she doesn't want any part of the male that's in there, she could just sit in there and be like, fuck you, come get me. And then they got to be able to spread out too, you know, to be able to finish the job. I would imagine if it's tightly coiled up, he's not going to be able to do it. So, yeah, those are things to consider. I had never thought about that, but you know, maybe that's why keeping stuff outside has played to my advantage on all these different species over the years, because, you know, it has to do everything. It has to do the whole range of behaviors. So they have to come out. They have to, after a cold night, they have to go and get, you know, warmed up. And, that's interesting though, dude. I friggin' love those, all those boas, man, that are found on those. Because when I was a kid growing up in Miami, I don't know if they were smuggling them in like crazy, but man, all those species were always in the pet stores, like just local. You go into a local pet store, like a friggin' giant Cuban boa and then Haitian boas all the time. And
yeah.
So the Chrysogaster, the Turks and Caicos boas are probably the coolest, you know, ones of my taste. But yeah, basically just this side of unavailable. But
I was going to ask you about that. You used to see them, but they were even rare back in the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was wondering if those were.
There's a couple, and that's about it. And don't seem to be doing all that much. The couple that are there.
That sucks. Well, I mean, a lot of people just don't even know what those things are, man. Mm-hmm. Like all those island boas. It's surprising how many, you know, and I don't think most people have ever seen a really giant Cuban boa. Man, that's an impressive and a terrifying snake.
Right.
I mean, you're talking retics. That's what you can do. That gives much the same impression, man.
Oh no, I know. I always had Cuban boas up to 2001. That's one of my favorite snakes. They only have like 4 or 5 babies. The babies are fucking gigantic. They can eat, you know, adult mice almost right out of the gate. Like everything about them they're so much different than all the other ones. Like they are the retic of that island, of those islands. But yeah. And so those are pretty high on my list to acquire. And plus you don't have to break the bank to get those things. Mm-hmm. They're all like fairly reasonably priced. And
right.
It's only nerdy hobbyists that know what they are. So
yeah.
What was the coolest things at Tinley, man?
I mean, I did go by Juggernaut's table a few times because he has super black bloods up there, you know, black short tails or Sumatrans, and you know, he had some pieds, and I kept looking at him. And I was like, man, if I could sell some albinos at this show, I'm going to come back here and buy a pied. But it didn't happen. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, so we vend with 2 friends of ours, Dan. I don't know if you guys know Dan Sheehan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Dan and Stacy.
Yeah.
So we vend with them.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they're good friends of ours, and they've been producing Shinosaurus. Mm-hmm. So Stacy had some of those there, and man, that is one of the coolest friggin' lizards, and
yeah,
it's really nice to see. I mean, those two, they produce a lot of cool shit. They have a lot of stuff between the two of them.
I remember the first time I met them, and they're just like going through their collection. I'm like, whoa, these guys have some serious lizard power.
I know.
Yeah.
And they actually moved, I mean, not super close, but they're 8 hours away from us now, as opposed to, you know, they were way up north, and we may end up in a thing where when we do Tinley, we'll drive to their house, and then we'll all just carpool to Tinley from there.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
but yeah, they're fucking great people doing really good stuff. I mean, they're like us.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of the industry, not the industry, but the hobby in general, now it's very heavily tipped towards like newbie people, new people, or people that, really only interested in the popular, like they only know ball pythons or they only know crested geckos. So it's cool to see, a younger generation that's doing the shit, that's into all the same shit that we're into. And
right.
Stuff, so.
It's refreshing to see. Yeah. Like,
yeah.
You strike up a conversation, then all of a sudden you're surprised, like, oh, that's cool.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
that's all we do is sit back there and fucking talk shit all fucking weekend when we're at those things. It's great. It's really nice having Dan and Stacy there because there's always somebody to keep you to talk to not get bored. But there's a lot. Tinley really has gotten I like it a lot more now. When I first started doing it 10 years ago, I wouldn't even walk it. It was a fucking snooze fest. It was just, you couldn't tell where one table stopped and another ended because it was all the same display with all the ball pythons down the whole friggin' thing. And then you'd get to some cool boas and I'd be like, oh, that's awesome. And then you'd be back into ball pythons again. And but now it's changed a lot. There's still a lot of ball pythons there. The show's probably maybe 40% ball pythons at this point. But you see there's a lot of cool frogs there. There's a lot of cool geckos. Actually, if you consider crested geckos in there, ball pythons and crested geckos probably take up about 60 to 70% of that show. But that still leaves, it's a big show. It's not like it was in the 90s. Like those shows are big. So there's an immense amount of things that are worth walking. And I just recently started walking that show the last couple of years because it was finally like, okay, I'm actually, I'll see some cool shit or run into somebody that I've always wanted to meet, that I see on social media that does cool stuff. So that's why I made it a point to go see Elijah from Juggernaut. And there was a few other, I don't know, man. It's kind of a blur. We have, everybody's there. So there's all these people that come and I don't want to, and I, after I'm out of there, I'm usually like just ass beat tired. And then this particular trip was fucking brutal.
Was it?
Because going up there was a severe storm system that was going across the United States. And if we drove straight through, which is 23 hours for us, we could avoid it. We would get at Chicago right as it hit. And that's exactly what happened. Right as we got into Chicago. And mind you, when we left Orlando, we left at Thursday morning at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And we were in shorts and a t-shirt. It was hot as balls outside. It was probably 80 some degrees. And we're driving through there, only stopping to get gas and to pee and stuff. And fucking, we get out of the car in Chicago at like 1:30 in the morning. And it was 70 miles an hour. The wind was 50 or 70 miles an hour. It was friggin' stupid. And it was cold as shit. And I was like, what the hell is this? And then when we got up to the room, the whole friggin' thing, it sounded like a hurricane out there. Like it was like the shit we go through down here.
Right.
And I was like, man, this is bad. But I'm like, that's cool though, because we can chill on the way home.
Yeah.
Nope. On the way home, it ended up being way worse. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people that attended that Tinley that drove home that went through similar shit that we did. We ended up driving home on the edge of it the entire time. Matter of fact, Jason Hood was just ahead of us somewhere. And we were kind of talking back and forth. He drove all the way through like a maniac. And he actually pulled over at one point at like 4 a.m. in the morning. And he said the raindrops were like the giant raindrops were hitting. And as they went, him, Billy Hunt, and his other buddy who, God, it sucks. I can't remember the dude's name. He comes here all the time. Anyway, they went into the gas station to get some coffees and stuff. And I don't know whether there was a tornado right near them, but it knocked out the power while they were in there and they had to wait. Man. And he was like, there was shit blowing outside. And for us, we could see it the whole way home. We could see it to the right of us, like in the horizon. You could see the lightning strikes.
Yeah.
And the wind was blowing the car all over the road. And our phones just kept going, bah, bah, tornado warning, take shelter. So about 3.5 or 4 hours into that, because we left Tinley at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock, right when it ended. It was about 11 o'clock at night. We were in like some little place called Horse Cave, Kentucky, which I didn't even know fucking existed. It's like this tiny little town.
Right.
And the phones were just going nuts, and it was pitch black, and the rain was sideways, and I was like, yeah, this is really getting uncool quick.
Yeah.
So we stopped at Horse Cave. We went to, there was only one Holiday Inn. We got there. They were like, we only had one room. That's all they had. So we got the room, and to make things absolutely worse, Heather swiped the key. She went in the room first. I was followed behind her. And all of a sudden, she turns around and comes running out, going with her head looking at the ground, shaking her head. Nope, 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 nope. And she just kept saying nope.
Oh, no.
And I realized that there were people in that room sleeping. And I was like, you cannot fucking make this shit up. So we went downstairs, and she was at the counter yelling at them about this. And while she was down there, the woman that was in that room also had called down there and was yelling at them.
Yeah.
Turned out it was two doors down from there. They gave us the wrong key to the wrong room and put us in the wrong room. And then as soon as that, it was unreal, man. That storm was friggin'. I mean, we've done that run, twice a year for 10 years.
Right.
This one was just stupid. Like, and it just, the timing, I mean, I was just like, man, why? Like, one day off, this wouldn't be like this,
Right. And having to follow it too the whole time, that just makes it even more like,
dude, let me tell you something, man. When we finally got home, I was fucking piece of shit from stress and anxiety. Like all three of us were, because we had taken a friend of ours, Tyler, with us to help drive. Because I can't drive in the dark anymore. I'm fucking night blind. So, and Heather didn't really want to, I didn't want to saddle her with like late night driving through mountains and shit. So I was like, this frog breeder, Tyler Conningham, friend of ours, I was like, well, he's like 26 years old. I'm like, look, bitch, you can go with us. We'll pay for your shit. Just drive. So
sounds like a good deal.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so it was cool. It was a fun trip, but it's a lot of memorable stuff and not memorable in a good way.
Right. That was Rob and I, when we were in Northern Territory, we went to cruise this great road, that's got lots of herps, and we saw like a pygmy mulga and some other, geckos and stuff. Yeah, it was pretty sweet. It was kind of funny because I was driving, so Rob jumps out and I see him looking at the snake, and he's like trying to figure out what it is. Then all of a sudden he starts doing the dance. I'm like, oh, it must be venomous.
I had something in my mind that I was hoping, I was like, okay, this is going to be a small olive python, because I still haven't found an olive python. And I'm going, okay, it's going to be a small olive python. I'm standing over the top of it, and I'm like, okay, no, there's a disconnect between what I want that to be and what it is. And as soon as it had fully processed, and I'm in sort of the crouch position right over it, and as soon as it the rotation clicked into what it was, that's when it decided that it was, because for the most part you can actually tell the difference, other than I guess death adders. I haven't seen one of them either, but for the most part, the difference between pythons and elapids in Australia is that elapids just run from you. So if you see a snake on the road and it stays on the road, then it's a python. And if it doesn't, then it's an elapid. But this one was an exception to that rule. So I'm standing, kind of all ready to pounce above it. And then it was only once the little rotator clicked into place that then it decided, oh, let's have some fun.
Oh God!
So they're watching me. It's it's coming up, striking up at me, and I'm just hopping back like a frog. Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah. So we jump out and corral it and take some pictures and stuff.
At least it wasn't in your hands when you made that determination.
Yeah, it was. I had stopped. And Justin was, giving me shit, saying like, "Well, why'd you have your hands like that?" And I was like, "Well, I needed to grab it if I needed
to." Well, I mean, keelbacks do look pretty similar to those pygmy mulgas, so you have to really kind of stare
that purple,
and be like,
that light pink purple, on the top of the head. That
the little banding, yeah, they're cool snakes, but yeah. You see, but the keelbacks look very similar. So it's like, I had a couple moments where I'm like, which one is that? I better not mess with either of them, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny, man. Yeah. That's the thing about Australia, right? There's so much shit that can fucking kill you down there.
Yeah. But then it started raining on us and we thought, oh, well, we'll drive and try to, maybe we'll drive through it, and it just kept getting worse and worse.
Somehow, it was like expanding around us and it was bizarre.
Then we thought, well, maybe we'll turn around and go back the other way, and it just the whole way out. We got all the way back out to the town, and we're like, oh man, it just was just pounding us. You couldn't see, more than a few feet in front of you.
Fortunately, there was essentially no one on the road. It had ripped off, all these extra limbs and leaves. The whole thing was just totally destroyed. But
the street was trashed. Making road cruising hard.
I saw they just got beat to shit by a couple of big hurricanes.
Oh yeah, they're getting pounded and
didn't they just have like an internal hurricane over Alice Springs area?
Yeah. Man,
it wasn't a hurricane though, right? It was
just rain. Yeah, they got pounded. So we were there in March of 2025, and the place we stayed at, the river was completely over the road. We couldn't even have gotten to where we were staying that trip.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, it was crazy. So I'm like, man, and it was about a year after we were there. So we're like, man, we picked the right year to go, because we would have been snorkeling looking for stuff this year. I'm not certified in scuba, so it would have been a little rough.
Right.
Yeah. Crazy though. How, I mean, all the rivers were full, and it was like South Australia too. Like we seeing different places. Like I remember driving on that road, and now it's like completely washed out. There's, that's crazy. Just the,
See all the dust in the sky at Shark Bay the other day? It looked like the sky was red, apocalyptic red sky.
Oh yeah.
Dirt.
Where was this at?
Shark Bay in Western Australia.
Western Australia. Yeah. Where you can get llamas up there. Yeah. Wow, man.
Crazy. Yeah. It was completely just red, like the whole sky.
Red sky.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's like an old sailor saying about
right. Yep. I can't remember if it was in the morning or night though, Rob. But
right.
Yeah. But
light. Which was it?
Right. Like we were talking about before, there's extremes. I remember driving through Ipswich with Troy Kulagowski, and he's like, oh yeah, just a couple of years ago, this whole Woolworths was underwater. There were like sharks swimming through the store, because it was just flooded. The floods
and that's how the golf course got sharks in Brisbane, right? They were there it was a bunch of male sharks that then wound up being there for whatever it was, 10, 15 years, something like that. But you get gators in the ponds at the golf course or at Disney or whatever. But from flooding, they had gotten something like a half dozen sharks that were then in this for the next 10 years.
Don't go to retrieve your ball out of that pond.
Well, and then the crocs up in, far north Queensland, right? Where, and I see there's a handful on accounts on Instagram that do show good stuff from up there, but like the Solar Whisper dude who works on the Daintree cruise, I think, and he had something that was like, I think it was drone footage showing something that was flooded out, and he was like, yeah, that's normally your street, but you see that giant croc that's sitting there?
Yeah. Yeah, at least in Alice Springs, you're not going to get attacked by a croc.
There are no crocs there?
No, not in the center. Yeah. But we were up in Kakadu and going to a lot of these gorges and they'll trap out any crocs and have, monitoring systems. Theory. Yeah, right. Theory, yeah. I noticed Rob wasn't jumping in the big bodies of water.
Right. When they open and close it for the season, right?
Yeah. But then as soon as it floods, all bets are off and all the crocs move in and, you can't go there. They just close it down. So I think Jordan went to that same area about a couple weeks after us, and it was closed, and it just was raining. And so they got to go very few places up there because everything was closed. When the rains start, then a lot of things close. So kind of crazy.
When at that spot, right? Who was telling us? Someone was telling us that on one of those tours where they go, the tour operators or whatever, that somebody I think got taken by a croc at that spot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with the European swim team and all. It was like the opening or closing as I'm talking, the last openings or when they had first opened that they had missed one, and it took somebody on a tour.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I was hearing about a tour and just some, I think was it Gavin that was telling us about that, where
probably, it's been on that one,
where they were going to the swimming hole and the tour guides are like, yeah, it's fine. It's too shallow to have crocs here. We've trapped them out or whatever. And they're swimming around. All of a sudden the smallest person in the group just goes underwater and they're like, oh
hell no,
you're messing around. And then a croc took her. They're just like, yeah, everybody get out of the water, and then this tour company's, facing legal issues because they, led people there during, were just not croc wise at all. So yeah.
Well. Yeah. I mean, when I was hunting a lot of iguanas, when I was a kid growing up in Miami, I had several close calls with very large alligators, and they're relatively harmless. It's pretty rare that an alligator will attack you. Let me tell you something, man. They'll come right up on you though to investigate sometimes. And when you realize that you're in the water with a 12-foot friggin' monster that's way bigger than you, it's very unnerving.
I can imagine.
There is no fucking way I would even set a toe in an Australian. I don't give a fuck if you said you trapped them, because I've seen monster alligators slide out from under holes in canal banks that you didn't even know they were there. Right. And then all of a sudden it slides out from, you realize, oh my God, Godzilla's coming out from under that, and they're 6 inches below your feet. I mean, I can't imagine. Crocs have to be similar in that regard. I imagine they have some of those banks dug out. You don't fucking know. They can hear you though.
Right. Yeah.
And,
we saw it up at Cahill's Crossing, which is where the water comes over the road, and the crocs will line up to catch the fish as they're coming in, as they get the daily rise in tide. And you got people out there fishing, standing on this thing. And we saw it one night. I mean, I always get thrown off because the sun goes down so early when you're down there. It goes down at 6:30 at night. Yeah. So it was probably 11 o'clock, but felt like 1 a.m. or whatever, after we'd been at another spot. We'd come over and there were folks that were standing on this in, ankle deep water fishing. And we see a croc just make a beeline towards this person. And it's like, oh my God, this is about to go down. We're at a distance and have a vista so we can see it. And it's just on a straight line. And then it got within whatever it was, Justin, 10, 15 feet. And it just made a hard right turn and chose peace that day.
Yeah.
Chose peace. And what kind of croc was this? Was that a
saltwater? Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Yeah. I saw crocodile in Dundee, man. I know how that works.
Yeah. And the freshwater crocs aren't too bad, you don't want to get bit by one, but they're more shy. They'll run away from you kind of thing. But you don't mess with the saltwater.
Yeah, and that's how alligators are too. They're relatively benign.
Right.
But they will if they interest you, if they're interested by you to see what you're doing, they'll slide right. Some of them will come real close. Now, I don't know if that's the result of people that feed them, because there's a lot of morons. Like I used to live on a canal when I lived in Palm Beach in Loxahatchee. My house sat on the corner of an intersection of canals. Mm-hmm. And there were these fucking dumbass pit bull rednecks that lived across the thing. And they would go out there and they would clean I think they were killing wild boars and then clean them, and they would feed the friggin' alligators that lived in the canal this.
Right.
Well, after 4 or 5 years there, those alligators got pretty big and they were always hanging out there. Mm-hmm. And then one night, my stupid ass Pekingese ran out the back door, my daughter's Pekingese, and jumped in the canal.
Yikes.
Right where the alligators were, but there was a lot of weeds, canal weeds in there, and he was sitting on top of the weeds, and then he was like, oh, what the fuck do? I didn't know this was water kind of thing. He's looking at me, and I'm looking at him, and it's like 11 o'clock at night, and I'm like, well, I'm going to die getting this friggin' dog. But I got him out, and everything was fine, but there were many, many times where there were that neighborhood had a lot of kids in it, and the kids would be out there fishing on the things, and those alligators would slide right up on them.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, and at the time they started out, they were about 6 feet. When I moved, they were probably about 8 feet, but there were like 3 or 4 of them there. And I'm like, man, when these get about 10 or 12, this is going to be, 8-foot alligator is pretty dangerous, but
right.
10 or 12 footers, I have to wonder if they don't start, thinking, maybe I can take this monkey,
Yeah.
Especially after they've been fed like that. They were 100% not afraid of people at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like they saw people as, that gave them food.
Right.
I thought, man, this is, at that point, I never really understood I knew that the state was really against feeding alligators. And it wasn't something, but I never really understood exactly how that translated until I actually saw it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, oh yeah, I could see where this is like a real problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
you wonder too, like the cottonmouths where they, people say they got chased or whatever. You wonder if they're just fishing and cleaning fish there, and the cottonmouths are trying to get an easy meal, and if they chase or scare the people, they'll drop their fish and run away.
When I was a kid, I had places. I had these 2 canals in Miami and a place called Hialeah that were absolutely loaded with huge cottonmouths. And I used to catch a lot of them. So I used to get like $7 for them from one of the reptile dealers. So I would always catch them when I was out there. I would go out there to hunt king snakes. There were a lot of king snakes, but you'd always end up getting like 10 or 15 cottonmouths. And at the time, everybody, this was like in the 80s, and herpetoculture was buying that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, man, they don't move. Like you walk up on them, they don't run away. They just sit there and they open their mouth.
Yeah.
Like I never had one try to ever strike, or, it's mostly a bluff.
Yeah.
But, they're pretty impressive when you get like a large 3-foot, 4-foot cottonmouth, and, they're about as big around as your arm and shit. It's an impressive snake.
Yeah. Yeah, but Jordan Parrott has a nice big yard, and I think he's got 10 acres behind his house, and we were just looking around. It was kind of late in the season, so there wasn't a lot of stuff out and about, but there was a snake on the bank, and he's like, it's either an eastern hognose or a cottonmouth or a water snake, and I think I hadn't seen all 3, at least in that area. So I went down there and I go to check it out, and it starts, going down the hole. So I grab it by the tail and pull it out. I'm like, yep, it's cottonmouth. Set it down on the bank, try to catch a quick picture, and then it slips back down the hole. I'm like, oh, that was cool. Yeah. Yeah.
It seems like wherever cottonmouths occur, they're pretty plentiful.
Right.
Like they seem to be fairly, they seem to be fairly common. They're pretty easy to, usually they don't go anywhere. Water snakes haul ass though.
Right. Yeah.
So it's kind of like that Australian thing. If it takes off like a bat out of hell, normally that's just a water snake. If it coils up though, and it cocks its head to the sky and opens its mouth, well, you know what that is.
Yeah. You see all those videos too, people picking it up going, oh no, that's a cottonmouth. I just got bit, time to go to the hospital.
I know that's it's a good thing they're not really that, they're really not that venomous. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody dying from one of those.
Terry Phillip told me that there was a record of somebody getting bit by a pretty good sized one, and they died like really fast after the bite.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's not, impossible, but yeah, they're not quite as potent as some of the snakes, but you can.
And foreign protein. That's anything that's that quick. It's like, okay, that's probably anaphylaxis, in reaction.
Devil dog. It's the thing that doesn't shut up.
I know that well. Ours are outside right now, or you'd probably hear them too. Yeah, Chuck's dogs would always bark during the podcast too. Yeah, Ruby and
yep,
yeah, good times.
How's Chuck doing? Have you heard from him?
Not a ton. No, I mean, I think he's moved back to Indiana.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. California was just not a great place to live. I think, as far as, just being expensive and all that good stuff. And he has family in Indy. So,
well, shit. If he's out in Indiana, tell him to drag his ass to Tinley and come sit and hang out.
Yeah. I'm sure that's probably on in the plans for some point once he gets settled. But I'm not sure if he's actually moved for sure or not. I've only talked to him a couple times since for the last couple of years, so I need to get back in contact with him.
I was thinking about him the other day when Rob said he asked me to be on here. I was like, what's going on with Chuck?
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So you guys just do Tinley? You don't do any of the other shows, or
we do Daytona?
Oh, okay, that's right.
Because we can just drive that one. We can just drive back and forth. It's an hour and 15 minutes away.
Nice. Yeah. Those local shows, they're especially if it's a big show like that. That's great.
Yeah. Daytona's hard to give up, and then every once in a while, there's two big. Because we live in Orlando, so we're basically it's basically Orlando and Tampa are kind of, like right here. They're almost twin cities to some degree.
Right.
So Repticon tends to have, and Reptilian Nation both have like bigger shows here. So if we have stuff, we'll do those sometimes. Because again, the Orlando one is like 10 minutes away, and Tampa's like an hour away.
Yeah.
So we'll do those sometimes, but we don't really make a super habit of it. It's more like, do we have shit? Do we need money? then we go.
Right.
Otherwise, we were doing like 39 shows a year or something, and it beat the fuck out of both of us.
Right.
And the pandemic put the kibosh on that. So after that happened, then we realized, oh shit, we're much happier staying home and not being on the road all the time. And
yeah. Does Heather do most of the business through like Morph Market or online, or?
Most of it's Morph Market and those shows. That's our primary income.
Yeah.
And we do some wholesaling. We do like some the reptile specialty stores that want like high end quality stuff. They'll buy stuff from us, but that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a totally different setup than when I was on my own. Back then, I would just 100% of what unless it was unless it's somebody that I knew that specifically wanted something. I just every week I would load up everything I had, take it to Strictly or Reptile Industries, and sell everything to them and get a check. Because I wasn't going to deal with all the stuff that comes with the retail. But it's certainly, I mean, we definitely, Fairy Tale makes way more money than I ever made when I was doing it that way. I mean, because she's actually, she sells most of it retail. We keep everybody happy, and and so we're actually getting paid what it's really worth, whereas I was just kind of dumping it for whatever, just enough to get a check to eat and keep the lights on and shit.
Right.
I was really. That was one of the things when her and I got together. She goes, "You're an idiot. You know that, right?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "Those dragons that you just sold that guy for $25. You know that I sell those all day long for $250." And I was like, "All right, well, I don't have your, I don't have that. I'm not exactly fit for prime time." So,
sounds like a good match, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's been good for both of us. I have all this, experience with all this different stuff, and she had 25 years worth of breeding bearded dragons and a few other things. So she had a lot of husbandry and stuff like that. But she ran regional mare's jewelry for a long time. So she's got chops when it comes to business, and she can do the corporate speak.
Yeah, it definitely makes a difference when they have
right. She can talk to customers that are normies and not offend them with an F-bomb here or there, or a shirt with a devil on it. It's like
right.
It's like So cantankerous old metalheads shouldn't be selling to the public. That's basically what it comes down to.
It makes it so much easier though, just to move a big, mass of animals. And I mean, there's definitely pros and cons to each way, but
I mean, I realized a long time ago that I was just better suited for that.
Right.
And then I would do Daytona to like sell to the public that wasn't somebody that I knew specifically. So I'd save all my really good stuff for that, and then I would sell it there. But yeah, basically it became a thing where friends picked out all the good shit, and then all the other stuff went to all the wholesalers, and that was kind of how I was operating for quite a long time. And now we're mostly a retail facing outfit with a little bit of wholesale, and
right. But
they get to talk. She gives them her phone number, and they call anytime. And me, I will. You'll be. I mean, unless you're somebody like Rob, if that phone rings, I'll look at it and go, oh fuck. And then, if it's not somebody that I know personally, I will not pick it up a lot of times, and that's not really conducive to retail. So
right.
I can't change. That's just how it's always been.
Yeah. Well, I know Rob has a bit of a heart out. Are you okay, or do you need? He's on his call, so he's listening to both here. But
no, I mean we're good. Whatever you guys want.
Yeah. I mean, we can keep talking. I'm trying to think. My brain's a little fried. I played water polo tonight, and I got smacked around a bit. And yeah. Any cool new insights you've had into the reptile breeding, or anything like that?
Yeah, I was thinking about that before I came on here, and I had something, and I'm drawing a blank right now. Yeah. But tonight I got one with Rob's Epicrates bow and the fucking log. I'm going to be thinking about that. Like, holy shit, have I fucked up in the past by doing stuff like that, by giving them too many tight options? No, I mean, that's actually a legitimate thing to consider. Something I had never considered before.
Well, I mean, it is closer to what they would be in nature too. Like if they're not receptive or ready, and they can wedge themselves in where the dog can't bug them, that might be a good thing to prevent, stuff that may not be as productive as, or female hopefully knows what her body can manage. I don't know. I think there's kind of a give and take there too, because it could maybe she just isn't interested, or doesn't feel like she can have a litter of babies in a box or something, like she wants a bigger area or something. Who knows? So,
I mean, the biggest problem with captivity, obviously, is that even when you try to give them as many options as possible, it's still nowhere near with the amount of options they'd have in the wild.
Right.
So
right.
You always have to kind of balance that between, kind of, what the animal needs to be successful and what you need to be successful. They're both kind of considerations there if you're trying to achieve a specific outcome. So, but I mean, taking things into account like that, it's really good to know stuff like that, because that might pop up down the road, and you realize, oh shit, I missed 2 years in a row. And it's because, I've set up a scenario here where the job can't get done.
Right. Yeah. And it'll be a little nicer if you're not depending on them for livelihood kind of thing, where it's more of a fun project or just kind of an extra little thing. I'm curious too about, keeping,
really curious to see how things will work out with your centralians outside. If one, they're gonna, people have this idea that, they need the light to be nice red animals. And I've always wondered about that, or been a little dubious about that, that the UV is what makes them be so red. And I don't know. I'm curious to see if you're going to keep them outdoors, if they're going to, what lines or what source are you getting your centralians?
I haven't taken any steps for that. Oh. A friend of mine locally has a pair that he keeps outside, and I've seen them, and they look just like everybody else's.
Okay.
Like, I used to hear that a lot about bearded dragons, but I've seen lots of bearded dragons raised inside. They're just as red as the shit we have outside.
Right.
So I think it's kind of like a lot of things. People see something, they make a judgment based on what they're seeing, but it's not necessarily true. It's just like, it's a hunch.
Yeah.
Most of the shit that we do in this is just hunches. Like, we think, but I mean, even most of the things that I say, that's just my experience, and they're hunches conclusions that I've reached based on, but I could never say for sure 100% that what I say is without a doubt the actual thing. I look at a situation, I draw a conclusion, and then I go with that. I think a lot of people, though, draw conclusions without really thinking a whole lot about the thing. Yeah. And those are usually pretty evident, and but it's funny how pervasive some of them become.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's just like, that is the dumbest shit. And then I look at the current political climate, and then I get it now. This is how this happens.
Yeah. Right.
It's just the proliferation of stupidity is just a thing.
And I think people think, AI is going to fix this. It almost makes it worse because they, I don't know. It's crazy.
I refuse to. I will not fucking pay for that shit. I don't want any part of it. This is the first time I'm opting out of technology. I normally will adopt whatever new thing is, but I want no part of this.
Right. I know. So I've had a few conversations with my buddy Jordan, and he's a techie guy, so he's using these things to his advantage, and he said that it's a serious thing, and he said it's like having a genius, as a best friend, but you have to know the subject matter to know if the information is accurate or not. Yeah, right. Because it'll give you an answer that it thinks is right, but if you don't know better, then you're not going to see that. So you really have to structure the questions the right way, and especially with follow-up questions to get useful information out of it. So, I mean, I think it's helpful in some ways, but it's absolutely like dangerous or sketchy, for gathering information in other ways, especially for people who aren't experts in that field. So I don't know. That's kind of the takeaway I've gotten from AI, but it can be a really powerful tool if you can use it in the right way.
Yeah, I 100%. I realize that as a tool, used properly. Yeah, it's hang on, my low power light. As a tool used properly, I can imagine it'd be pretty powerful. The thing that worries me is that I switched over to GPS, like 10 or 15 years ago, whenever it was really, and now I can't navigate for shit without it anymore.
Yeah.
And I used to be able to go everywhere without, you could give me an address and I could get there without anything. And now I need the thing even yelling at me to turn here because I've become so fucking, I feel like it made me weak,
right?
In a lot of areas. So I'm looking at AI going, I don't think that I want to become dependent on that.
Right.
Because that seems like that has a pretty big weakness attached to it. All things have, everything you gain, you have to accept the negative that comes with it. And that's just where at this moment anyway, I'm drawing the line. I've looked at it. I've looked into it. Like I said, I've always been a computer guy, and I've always kept up with new technology and stuff, but it's just, first of all, I despise all of the people that have built these things. Like, those are people that I would not piss on if they were on fire for fear that I would put them out. And then when you couple that with again, I take it back to the GPS. I feel like that really screwed me up. Now I could probably retrain myself to not be an idiot and be able to read maps again and get myself around without needing it.
Yeah.
But it's so friggin' convenient.
Yeah.
And that's the price that I paid for that. Like, I got this convenient thing. Right. I also now completely tracked everywhere I go. Everything I say is recorded. And, it's like, and now I'm an idiot. I can't navigate around anymore. I can barely navigate out of my driveway.
Right. I guess it's like any technology, it comes with risks, but at the same time, it can be a powerful aid in some ways. I think I'm still trying to figure out where it can benefit. Everybody's using it a lot of people are using it just for stupid things, make a cartoon of me or absolutely false things. Like, I don't know. I see all these stupid videos online about like, it's some wildlife guy with a snake right in front of him, but the snake keeps moving the same way. And you're like, something looks off, it's just not right. And, people are like, whoa, I've never seen behavior like that. Because it's not real. It's AI, it's made up. So I think, those kind of things are obviously just ridiculous and not helpful. It's just a waste of time kind of thing, entertainment more than anything. But yeah, I think, and the way it's just skyrocketing in improvements. It's just getting more and more powerful, and more capable as it goes, which is, a little disconcerting, and they can't keep up with the power and the energy needed to run this thing. And you're like, man, I don't know. This is going to be interesting to see how this goes, but it's definitely part of the future. It's here to kind of stay. And, I'm wondering how it's going to shape society. Cause, just in one area, Jordan was saying that, there was employees and all of a sudden they're not needed anymore because their job can be done in the blink of an eye compared to like taking them, weeks or months to do some projects. Now they can have this just run things and do the same job in seconds. It's crazy.
Right. And that itself is very worrisome.
Right. Yeah. What do you do with all these people that are skilled and trained? And, but again, you have to be an expert. You have to know the subject to be able to use that. You can't just, any idiot can't just say, hey, I'm going to replace this position. They have to have the expertise to understand what it's spitting out. But instead of having a team of 5 people, you only need one person to do the same amount of work. So it's a little sketchy that way.
I mean, that, on the flip side, there's always a lot of doom and gloom that goes with new technology, and it never turns into what people worried about.
Right.
At least not yet. And so but this one to me seems like it has a higher chance to be really bad than a lot of the things that we've seen. I mean, outside of nuclear weapons, which, we may not be out of the woods on that either.
Right.
So, I mean,
we may be the offenders. Who knows? Like we have in the past. So
I know
I wouldn't put it past us.
History repeats itself.
Right. So, it's kind of sad.
I'm hoping that ain't what's gonna. But yeah. So all that's. I don't know, man. The future is always kind of, scary and cool at the same time. And I think we're definitely going through one of the more extreme versions of that. And I think at least in our lifetimes, we've never, outside of the Cold War, and that, but this seems like there's just so many different things right now that are potentially,
scary.
Could either be really good, could usher in a whole new, where everybody, there's that whole utopia idea, and then there's then there's the dystopia. I don't think either one of those things. It'll always be somewhere in the middle.
Right.
It's just where the slider ends up. Does it end up more on the dystopia side, or does it end up more on the utopia side?
How painful is the future going to be, or how comfortable is it going to be? Yeah. Any like if there was a project that, that's not available to you now that you would drop everything to take on, is there any kind of reptile project like that for you?
I mean, realistically, the one thing that I do want that I currently cannot afford are Sanzinias.
Okay.
Like I would like to have a nice group of those. That's always been, a big deal. But, I mean, I will eventually get those as soon as I figure skink money will allow me to be able to do that. Nice. Everything's better with skink money. But yeah, no, I mean, everything is within reach. None of it is like, none of the things that I really am interested in are like out of reach stuff,
Right.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it would be. I mean, I'd like to have Owen Pelly pythons, but I'm never going to get those.
Well, never say never. I mean, there's rough scales. I thought those would be,
if some made it into your pocket, saying I don't want to hear about it.
Right. Not in our pocket, but we've heard about them being in your state. So who knows if that's true?
In where?
In Florida. Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah.
That would not fucking surprise me. This is Florida man territory, so you never know.
Right. Yeah. Well, and where they've been captive bred and reliably captive bred in Australia. I mean, we got to go hold a bunch of adults at Gavin's place. It was pretty awesome. They're pretty amazing snakes. Like, I mean, it's hard to describe how cool that is. They're just so long and thin and just different, really unique snakes.
Yeah,
I feel the same way. Like, I don't know anybody that has any or anything like that right now, but rumors and people who have said, oh yeah, I saw some in the US or something. So who knows? And there's definitely heat on that. So you're not going to want to, be the first one to put down a lot of money for those. But
I mean,
they make their way into the trade legitimately, and we'll be able to keep those at some point. Cause I feel the same way. I'd love to see Owen Pelly's, make the rounds.
Yeah. I mean, I never thought I would see lace monitors. That was like, it was totally out of reach. Occipitalis, same thing. So I thought it was totally out of reach. Yeah. And then legal specimens came in and now we have them.
Right.
So I mean, it's certainly possible. Owen Pelly's aren't endangered either, are they?
Not well. It's hard because they're just so hard to find,
Yeah, so, but they're not listed as endangered on anything.
They shouldn't be. I mean, they have such a wide range, and they're just difficult to find, I think, is the main thing.
Because they're way up in trees, right? And they're nocturnal, so
or deep in rock crevices and the cliffs. I mean, we were out there, and we had good intel on where one was seen. This was my first trip or second trip back in 2011, and so we were in Kakadu looking in the escarpment country. Like, they gave us the tree that the snake was in, so we knew it had been seen here within the last week, and we went looking. So we got there as early as we could in the morning, and we're looking around the area, looking in all the crevices, and we just realized this is like so many choices for this thing to just disappear, and you would never see it. And like, all of a sudden you started getting hot, and I thought I knew heat, desert heat, but nothing like this. Like, I felt like I was going to melt, and it was like 10 o'clock in the morning or something, like a ridiculous heat. And we had to stop and then we discovered that, these deep rock crevices, like, you feel this cold air coming out of them, you could kind of get down in there and refresh yourself a little bit. And then we're like, there's no way these things are going to be surface active with this heat. They're down in these crevices where there's probably water trapped and their food, and, they probably don't need to come out very often, but it's kind of crazy. And it seems like they're cyclically active because, when Gavin Bedford got the permission to collect some to breed him in captivity, that whole project, he had a buddy, that was living up in the town of Oenpelli in Arnhem Land, right in the Aboriginal lands. And he was teaching English up there, teaching at a school up there. And he would drive around at night looking for Oenpelli pythons, like he would herp. And it led to some confusion because the folks in town thought that he was visiting their women while the men were away, and he had to explain what he was doing and show them some of the snakes he was finding and things. But he didn't see any Oenpellis. And then one year, he saw 3 within the span of 2 weeks. All of a sudden they were out for some reason and cruising around, and the
3
people
in 2
in town
weeks is considered out, huh?
Yeah. Yeah,
shit.
exactly. And not just him, but also Gavin found, had found some around the same time. And when Rob and Eric and Owen and Keith found theirs, same kind of thing. Another couple, 2 other US guys were over there, and they both found Oenpellis. And then the spider researcher found one. I mean, they were just out, and for whatever reason, that year was the year they were out. And so I don't know if it's a detection thing or a luck thing, but they seem to be very scarce. But then when you find them, then you find them, that kind of thing. So
I mean,
I don't know.
That does work that way. I mean,
right. Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people that when I was collecting night owls down in Miami, I mean, they come down in the middle of the day and they sit on the stump. This is huge green lizard sitting on a stump. Uh-huh. You would be shocked how many times I got out of the car, caught one in front of someone, and they were amazed that that thing was even there.
Right.
They had no idea that those things even lived in their house, in the tree in front of their house, and they were outside, while I caught this thing. So they saw me do it. And then they were like, I didn't even see that thing.
Yeah.
But I bet you that once they knew what to look for, I bet you they saw them a lot after that.
Right.
Because every time I ever went looking for something, that was once I found one.
Yeah.
Then I understood it.
Yeah.
Up till that point, I just didn't. It's just how it
clicks.
You
have that search image, and that really helps, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing with Boyd's forest dragons, right? I kind of knew what I was looking for. I was checking the right size trees and everything, and then finally see one, okay, that worked. And then I was with my kids, and I told them, whoever finds one of these lizards we'll get ice cream for everybody, And so my oldest daughter took it really seriously. So she's just scanning every tree. And we were up, on this loop hike, and we were kind of waiting for these people to pass. Right. So we were just standing off the side of the trail, and she's lagging behind because she's scanning all the trees, and then she catches up with us. And then she's like, "Oh, I thought you'd be more excited." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "Isn't that the lizard we're looking for?" and it was, I couldn't see it because there was a tree in the way, but where she was standing, she could see it on the tree. And she's like, "Yeah, that's it right there, right?" I'm like, "Yes, good job." It was kind of funny.
But. Yeah, Jason Hood was here a couple months. I guess it was a few weeks ago now. I don't remember. We were sitting out in the back porch shooting the shit, and he was telling me about his Australia trip. And he was like, dude, we were catching monitors tree monitors next to sidewalks, like in front of houses.
Right.
Like I jumped out of the car in front of a mansion. There was a tree monitor right there on the sidewalk. And I was like, that is not at all how I pictured Australia herping. I see just, outback and no people and trees and shit. He's like, oh no, it's just like living in Miami. He's like, they're in the trees in front of the houses. He caught a big frilled dragon in a park, and then some elementary school girl yelled to him, "Put it down, you fucking cunt."
Oh,
and he was like, an elementary school kid yelled this at me from the doorway of the school. And if you ever met him, he's like, Jason's a big dude, man. He's Well,
we were on the trip together. So he started out in Darwin with, he on his own. He landed in Alice Springs, drove up to Darwin area, and then came back down with our buddy Dale. And then we started the trip kind of with all of us. So
were you with him at the elementary school, or that was before?
No, but that was before. So
that's great. God, I wish you had been there for that.
Well, we'd Rob and I had herped that same area and went over to the school grounds. Luckily, it was a Saturday, so we got to pick them up and take some pictures and stuff like that. But yeah, we found I think three or four on the school grounds. Like
he said that was like the place to go to see frill dragons.
Right.
It's like, it's a school. It's like pine trees.
Yeah.
Right. And he's like, they're right there.
Yeah. Yeah. And then along this park, just like very popular area, lots of people run around. We saw probably, 15 of these spotted tree monitors. And then we saw some of the Mitchell's water monitors in the park. They were a little more shy. Like they didn't let you get too close, but the Scaleris were everywhere, and you could get I got some really nice photos of the Scaleris. It was pretty sweet, but
yes, it's so weird to think about.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I get it. People come down here from up north and they can't believe that they're like iguanas just all over the place and alligators and the thing. They think that, and I guess it's the same thing. But for me, it's always like the idea that all the shit that we covet so much is in like friggin' residential backyards, and people have fucking, Owen Pelly pythons in their attic and whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's it's like crazy, man.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know that I think I'm in that phase of like, okay, I've kept them in boxes. Now I just want to see them all in the wild.
Yeah.
And, it's so great to see some of these things that you keep and be able to, find them in Australia. Especially when you get really lucky and find, we found all 4 of the pythons in Central Australia, and just crazy. But that Brettles we found was, as nice as any captive Brettles in the US. And it was just, run of the mill Brettles out in the wild.
That's one of my favorite snakes. They are amazing. Yeah. I just like, they have that big head, and they're heavy body carpet python. They're amazing. And the red color is just, I love that. They don't need a morph. I mean, even though there are cool morphs for them, they're just amazing on their own. I've always loved them. I've set them up a couple times in the last 5 or 6 years, and they were always things that I cut because we were, it was like, oh, we're overloaded. But now I can actually do it, and I don't have to worry about cutting. So
especially if you just have a pair or two, like it's
because the last time I bought Brettles, I bought 24 of them.
That's a lot of Brettles.
And then I was like, why do I have all these?
Well, you don't do anything small scale.
No, that's
until now,
done.
Right?
That is done. As I say that, and I have 340 skinks in the backyard. But no, everything else, that is the only big thing that will be here. That's, I mean, I'm confident in that, and I don't need to make another commercial thing. So I'm just going to have fun.
Yeah.
I want to be able to do shows like this, have a bunch of shit to talk about, cool stuff, and have different stuff on the table, and all that.
Well, we'll be excited to check in when you get some of these projects and be able to hear what you're doing with them. That'll be awesome.
I do want some children's and stuff, and I know you're like the guy for that. So
yeah, hopefully. I mean, this season has started out terribly. I actually just sold most of my Antaresia last week, so like a big order. I sold most of my available animals, but I still have some spotteds and a couple pygmies that I'm still working on feeding. But I should hatch all 5 this coming season, I hope.
You have all 5 species.
Yeah.
No shit. That's awesome, dude. Yeah, I love that. Again, lizard feeders aren't really a problem for me. So
yeah, and they that most of them are pretty easy to switch over. It's just the pygmies are a challenge, and then I've got these pygmy banded pythons, which are, in my opinion, an undescribed species. In the guy who or the group that did all the work on Antaresia, they said they're just children's pythons, and I'm like, there's no way.
Oh yeah, I heard you on one of the podcasts. You're like, nope, I don't care what the DNA says.
I don't know. I just can't see. I mean, they're physically a little different. They're smaller. It's just so many things that just line up, and you're like, no, I'm sorry. You're, But yeah, no, I actually talked with that guy and had a few conversations with him. I'm just like, I told him we need to bring him on here and kind of, hash it out a little on the podcast, but we'll see if we can make that happen. He was willing to come on and discuss it, but.
And speaking of that, the reason that Heather's in the next room on a podcast is because we now have the ability to genetically sex blue tongues.
Oh, cool. Who pulled that through?
Phenome,
huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a bunch of different ones working with us or wanted to work with us, and they kept reaching out to me, and I'm really the wrong person to reach out to, and I would always forget, or get busy with other shit. And finally, one of them reached out to her directly, and then next thing I know, I find out that we've been sending sheds to this company, and she's like, "Oh, and they can genetically sex them now. It's like $50." And yeah, and that's actually a game changer for blue tongues, because that's always been the real problem, is that, when you're selling high-end blue tongues, nobody wants to have to buy 6 of them to maybe get a pair, or 4 or whatever. So now we'll be able to, anything that's, over, that's basically not a pet thing, we'll just have genetically sexed, and then we can sell them sexed, exactly what people want.
Right.
So, hang on a minute. Will you guys stop it? Stop it. That's enough. Idiots.
That's cool, because I'd heard a lot of groups were kind of working towards that, and I know Ben Morrill, I'd send Ben a bunch of shed skins from known sexes so he could have at least something to start with. But
I'm sure they'll all have that same, right? I would imagine. So that's actually a pretty big deal for this.
Yeah, that's huge.
It's been a problem since we started it, and we were worried about it. And then, because at albino at $10,000, these guys are looking at it going, "Well, shit, I got to buy 3 or 4 of them to hopefully get what I want, or whatever."
So are you just automatically sending out shed skins and getting them sexed, or are you waiting until
we will this for anything that's for sale that we don't know the sex of?
Mm-hmm.
We will of the higher end stuff. I'm not going to send it out for like a $500 pet thing or whatever.
For sure.
But yeah, for like the higher end morphs and species and stuff, for 100%. And for obviously if the customer can do that too, right? If they decide they want to know exactly what sex they are, then they can just send the shed. And get it done, because it's really not expensive for what it is. And
especially if you're spending $10,000 on a lizard, $50 is not going to make any difference there. Oh, that's cool. That's good to hear. I'm excited. I'll have to look into that, because I've got a few that I'd like to know one way or another.
And I think they're going to eventually have it for other skink species as well. So I don't know if she sent them anything from the occipitalis or any of the others, because we have pure Easterns, we have the Queensland Easterns, we have Marukis and all that stuff. So I don't know what she's been sending them. Like I said, my real interaction with all this is, hey, there's the cage lid on a number 39 needs repaired or stuff like that. So I go out there and do that right now, because I just don't want to interfere.
Right.
It's so complicated, because she has to track all these hets and all this other stuff. Man, I am not
going to get in her way.
I mean, she will kill me in front of you to send a message. It's like one of those things. So I'm not touching it. But I do know that she. I mean, I didn't find out that we were doing this until the guy came and told us at Tinley, and then she's like, "Oh yeah, we've been sending them sheds, and now we can sex them." I'm like, how the hell did I not even know this?
Right.
She's like, "Oh, you don't know nothing. Just go play WoW and be quiet." I was like, "All right, we're good."
I'm sure you were really sad to hear that.
It was a bummer, man.
Don't throw me in that briar patch. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's good information, and I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, it's cool.
I'll have to ask Ben if he's any closer too, or if this, if they've published it or something, if he can start using that as well. I don't know. A lot of those trade secrets, like, it's kind of hard to figure out on the front end and takes a little bit of investment. So I'm sure they they probably are keeping that quiet and, just running as many samples as they can. But yeah, I think that, this kind of thing where you can get those, morph projects going that were kind of stalled, they're, if all the skinks out there, $250, there's just really no drive to, pay $50 to sex them because,
right.
Yeah. But when you start getting that drives that motivation to figure it out and work it out and have that, technology available. So yeah, it's nice to see those revolutions and improvements in our capabilities through your efforts there. That's
cool. I mean, it looks like a lot of the industry has been watching what we've been doing out here, mm-hmm. and it looks like some of them have kind of positioned themselves to take advantage of it when it finally pops, which, right. like I said, is this year. I think right. come October, Tinley, we will show up this time with 2 tables that are completely mm-hmm. full of all. I think people will be very surprised.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I might have to make a trip out there just to see what you got going. Or I'll just make a trip out to Florida.
Yeah, I was going to say, man.
Yeah.
Rob's been here.
Yeah, I need to get out there again.
Anytime, man.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Well, man, it's always great having you on the podcast. Thanks so much for coming on and sharing your thoughts and ideas and experiences.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me, man. I always look forward to this one. This is one of my favorite ones to go on. Because you guys the 3 of us just can shoot the shit probably for hours and hours and hours.
Right.
On all this crap.
Yeah.
But this is fun. This is just like hanging out.
Yeah. And I'm always surprised. You always have new stories that I've never heard. I've listened to all your interviews on other podcasts and stuff, and you always surprise me with new stories. It's great. So.
It's just a matter of if I remember it or not.
Right.
I mean,
yeah,
it's just kind of like
the same way. Yeah.
And oftentimes, we go down rabbit holes that, and a lot of times it's the same rabbit hole because a lot of people ask the same thing, whatever. But you guys always kind of ask stuff that the rest of them don't.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's kind of the whole reason we wanted to do a podcast was just to do something a little different than what's being done. So
100%, man.
Appreciate that.
NPR is still my favorite podcast. That the whole thing, all the ones all the ones under that umbrella are all good.
Yeah.
No drama, no horse shit. It's just fucking straight up. So
right. Yeah, their latest interview with Jordan was a great show. I mean, that guy's a wealth of knowledge. So yeah, check that out if you.
I will. I'll do that tomorrow. I was kind of bored anyway, looking for stuff. And
right.
Yeah. So I'll do that. That'll be my work thing tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm kind of selective these days. Like, there's a few shows I'll listen to, but yeah, for the most part, it's like, I don't need to listen to that. Like that.
Yeah,
it doesn't interest me, or even if it's not something I keep or I'm really that interested in keeping, I still will listen to a podcast if there's somebody on there that is knowledgeable
right. And that's what I've been doing. If I know if I see somebody on there that I know on whatever podcast, I'll listen to it.
Right.
The only ones that I listen to, most of them are the NPR ones, yours and the other one, but the last couple of months I've been like, I tend to kind of put a little bit of distance between myself and the whole herb thing for a few months at a time, just so that I get my head clear, so I can think, you know what I mean? Cause you take in all this and it can cloud your mind. So sometimes you got to clean the palate a little bit. So I'll step back and just stop listening altogether and just focus on other things. But yeah, the last couple, ever since Tinley always throws me back in. Right. I go to Tinley usually hating the whole thing. I'm a miserable prick up until I get there, and then once I get there and I see everybody, I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" And
I remember how cool this all is. Yeah,
right. And then I come back home and I'm like, "All right, I'm fucking recharged again, and ready to go." So
exactly.
But
having you on here recharges me. This is good stuff, and thanks again for coming on.
Well, it's mutual, man. I appreciate it. But yeah, my phone is about to die. I hit I had the 10% battery thing about a half hour ago, I think, and it's now going. It's making random noises. So I think it's about to go out.
There we go.
But,
all right, man. Well, thanks again, and we'll catch you again soon. Yeah.
All right, man.
Thanks
good
everybody
talking to you guys.
Yeah.
Let me know.
All right.
All right,
Thanks
guys.
everybody
Have a
for
good night.
listening. Yeah, we'll catch you next time.
All right.
See you.